Rep Radio, an Emory production. Since 2009, our goal has been simple. We support, promote, engage, and inspire the arts community by igniting the ghost light that shines on the stages of the up-and-coming, the unsung heroes, the brilliant writers, and the dynamic designers. Our podcast breaks the fourth wall to give you an inside look at the plays and the players. Stay tuned. Rep Radio is on the air. Today on the podcast, Satchel Williams stops by to talk about the Inishnuah Theater Company production of 100 Words for Snow, written by Tati Hennessy and directed by Claire Moyer. Here is my interview with Satchel Williams. Welcome to Rep Radio. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am... You're fine. I'm in a very living space. I am at the Louis Bluver Theater at the Drake, and I'm here with Inishnuah Theater Company, and I'm sitting across from Satchel Williams, who plays Rory in the American premiere of 100 Words for Snow.
Yes, indeed.
Satchel, welcome to Rep Radio.
Thank you for having me.
So we had a quick chat in the lobby, but
We did.
just like lobby chats
Yeah.
do, they're very quick. So
Yeah.
as soon as someone wanted to give you praise, I just stepped away.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because it's that time, you know, you
Yeah.
have that moment where people have just been engaged by you for this time, and they're like, wow, what a great performance. Oh, this was fun. I love that point. I love this, blah, blah. And, you know, so they get limited time with you.
Right.
So I step away. It's fine. So we're here.
You know,
We're here to chat. How are you today?
You know, I'm all right. You know, I'm feeling good, feeling all right. Just came from one of my many other jobs. It's
Yeah.
only 2 other ones, but still. But I'm feeling all right. You know, now we're in the full swing of the run, so things have
Yeah.
kind of settled in. So I'm feeling pretty good.
I feel like in Philadelphia, you can't just wear one hat. You have
Yeah.
to wear a bunch of hats. And
Absolutely.
who knows? It might be a parent, you know, or you have 3 or 4 jobs.
Yeah. A
But
baker.
but I think it makes us dynamic and
Right.
engaging, and I think
Well-rounded people.
yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
So this is your first time on Rep Radio. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Only member of my immediate family to be born in America. I grew up in New York. I went to high school in Manhattan. Came to Philadelphia for college. I went to Temple for theater.
Okay,
Because
go
there's no
Owls.
theater, go Owls, because there's no theater in New York to speak of, obviously. And I graduated last year, and so now I live here in Philly, and I'm working, just trying to work, really, just getting a lot of life experience. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And you did tell me that you know, not only are you an on-stage actor, but you do some behind-the-scenes stuff too.
Yeah, I try to get any directing type gigs wherever I can, kind of stuff. Like if I can assistant direct here and there. When I was in school, I directed or co-directed a couple of productions. Even got to produce a couple things in school. But producing's expensive, so we're
Yeah.
going to work back up to that.
It's always good, to
Yeah.
the many hats.
Yes.
You know, I'm an actor, but I'm also a stage manager.
Right.
I have a friend who always said that she was a overhire carpenter, which I always thought was an interesting
Yeah.
add-on to it, which I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, special skills, I'm telling you. Yeah.
So let me just ask you quickly about the direction. Do you find that it helps you as an actor, or is it a totally different muscle that you're flexing there?
I think it's 100% connected, and I'm really grateful for that, actually, because when I am more of a sitting in more of a director standpoint, like thinking more about the big picture and how all these pieces come together, it makes me, when I switch back to acting, remember that like I am just one part of this machine. And even though, I mean, I feel like you have that point, like no matter where you are in the theater, but like when you're an actor who thinks like a director, you can really anticipate like the kinds of things that are important and the kinds of things that you look for. Like I see, even as well, I was in school as well, but like, you know, you see actors who move around and like you don't necessarily have to be conscious of like where you're standing or what your sight lines are, because that's really the concern of the director. But you can really make the director's job easier and then delve deeper into the work by getting rid of all of those like little technical things if you have like the director's mindset, and so you can have more time to play around and do whatnot. And I think it makes you a little bit more reverent of the choices that you're making, because in a good way, because you really understand that like each little choice that you're making and that you're crafting in the rehearsal room help to the greater picture. And I know sometimes along the runs of shows, like little things can change, you know, as the show grows and develops. But I think with the director hat up there on my shelf, in the back of my mind, it helps me remember that like what the main arc of this story is and how to be cognizant of how the little changes or like the ways that I can make the show new don't affect the show on a whole. Yeah. You know?
So all you listeners out there, try not to put yourself in a box, you know, expand out.
Yeah, it's only helpful.
Yes,
it's
it
only
could
helpful.
only make you better.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about 100 Words for Snow.
Yeah, so 100 Words for Snow is a one-person show about this, centered around a 15-year-old girl whose father just died in a very tragic and unexpected way. And she's kind of lost, not really knowing what to do in the wake of her father's death. And she stumbles upon his plan that he made for them to go on a trip to the North Pole together for the following year. And she's so struck by the intricacy and the detail of the plan that she's like, wow, he really wanted us to do this together. I don't really know why, other than the fact that he was a nerd for this kind of stuff. But this is what really mattered to him. I have no other direction in my life right now. I think I'm just going to steal my mom's credit card and take his ashes to the North Pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
as you do.
As soon as I realized that moment, there's a stolen credit card in the mix here.
Yeah.
It made me think of Home Alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
At the end, they're like, you spent all this money on room service?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, of course, when we get to the end, there's an interestingly unexpected but pleasant turn to this series of events that you know is very much the way we would hope this story goes. But at the same time, I was like, I don't know.
Right.
First of all,
it's like, well, you know, it's like what's in the play. You know, grief makes us do crazy things, and therefore, grief, some of those crazy things could be radical forgiveness. Yeah. And I think that's a thing that happens for sure at the end of the play.
Yeah.
In terms of stolen credit cards and whatnot.
Yes.
Yes.
What were your thoughts after your first read of this piece?
Oh, the first time I read the whole play was actually when I got the sides for the callback, and like not a lot of times, like, or at least in my experience. I mean, I've auditioned like maybe like 4 times. I'm a little baby actor, but I don't always have the luxury of having the whole script like sent to me when I audition. Like sometimes you have to like dig it out and see what the show is. So when I read the whole play, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is hilarious. I love her so much, and I immediately connected with her humor. And I really thought the story was beautiful. I mean, I'm a real sucker for a coming of age story. Those are like some of my favorite like films to watch, my favorite journeys to watch. I feel like those kinds of character studies are really interesting. And so, yeah, when I first read it, I loved it immediately, and I still love it now, even though there are so many pages, which I didn't really think about when I first read it, but it became very apparent to me on subsequent reads.
So this is a solo piece, and there are many pages.
Yes.
So what goes through your mind when you're like, I got to get to the end of this?
That's the
process to memory.
That's the hardest part, is like not trying to like think about getting to the end as much as like just getting through each beat. It certainly was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I think nerve-wracking for really everyone involved. Claire, my director, wonderful, wonderful woman, but we've never worked together before. She knew I was fresh out of school. She really took a chance on me. So I know she never made this like a pressure on me, but you know, you can feel like, you know, all that matters is that you learn all your lines, because you know, you never know. You really never know. And I'm sure like for the fact that I worked 2 other jobs, I worked like 7 days a week, other than like I worked 7 days a week before rehearsal started. It wasn't really looking good for like me having like tons of downtime to learn the lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, luckily, like because it's just a 1-person show and we're in rehearsal like 30 hours a week, like the repetition gets really in there. Having to get used to dialect work also helps with the repetition and like remembering like how it feels in my mouth and whatever. And then I'm fortunate enough to, at least for one of my jobs, is I'm a barista, and a lot of times if people don't come in, I'm just gonna have my little script under the espresso machine, and I'm learning my lines as I can, you know, in between lattes. Yeah.
You had mentioned you said dialect, and then I was thinking, so I guess people probably ask you this all the time, but do you find yourself slipping into the dialect throughout the day? I just
had an audition the other day, and it was awful because I was doing a Shakespeare piece, and like I don't want to be, you'd never want to be like that actor who, like that American actor who shows up to like an American theater company and you're doing a British accent on Shakespeare. Like I'm like, oh, this is the only way you can speak these words. But I kept slipping into it, and I had to be like, oh, hey, by the way, I recognize that a little bit of that was British.
And you're trying to, and you don't want to sound pompous either.
Right.
You know?
It's just like, oh, I realize I slipped into that a little bit there. I'm aware of that. Promise you that's not commonplace. Promise you I'm aware of what country I'm in and from. So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just at work the other day, and someone said, do you know you just said that whole sentence in a British accent? And I was like, no, I didn't. And like, yeah, you did. And I'm like, oh, well, art informs life.
I love to talk about dialects in pieces. I remember one of my early jobs out of high school. I worked at a movie theater, and apparently a week before I started working there, the floor staff was engaged by this wonderful British couple. So everyone was walking around, oh, hello, very nice to meet you. And everyone had this, you know, that sort of like broken American kind of snooty. Right. It was more snooty than it was.
Hey. How are you doing? Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
But they told me that whole story, and I was like, I see how it works.
Yeah,
I see it.
Yeah.
And I think people probably, if they think about it, they do slip into accents when no one's around.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of times my friends and I are just like, oh my God, how are you? You know, you slip into things like that. Oh
yeah, that stereotypical Valley girl.
Yeah,
you could definitely do that. It's like mouth wide open.
Right.
It's like mouth agape.
And you're just mouth like, agape. And you just like closing a little bit, and it's like a little brighter, and you just really stink.
It's also part South Dakotan.
Yeah, a little. You know? There's a little bit in there.
Holding back a little bit.
Absolutely.
See, this is what happens in the rehearsal room. So when we think about this journey, would Satchel embark on a journey like this?
Absolutely not, for so many reasons. The number one being, I do not like the cold. I do not like it. And I know no one really likes the cold, but my parents are from the Caribbean. So I like to say, on a biological level, I am not prepared for winter temperatures. Like, it's not for me. I've always hated the cold. The ocean scares me. I have a deep fear of the ocean because I don't trust things that, like, if I don't know what's at the bottom of this thing that's on our planet.
You're like, what is this?
Absolutely. I said in rehearsal, if there are creatures on this planet that I share this planet with who don't need the sun. And I don't have any business knowing what those are like. I don't want to be involved with that. I don't want to go near it. The traveling aspect, cool. Like, I've definitely gone to places. I've been fortunate enough in my life to, like, go to places where I did not speak the native language and everything is terrible and terrifying, but there's something really thrilling about going on that journey. And especially going on a journey for somebody that you love dearly and knowing it was something that you were doing something that someone you love had always wanted to do, I think is really meaningful to me. Like when I was saying, when I was in school, I was able to go to study abroad in London, and my father had studied abroad in London back in the 80s, and he told me his address, and I just asked him in like a really casual circumstance, but I did it so I could like go visit the house that he went to, and I took a picture in front of it, and it like really moved him, and I don't know, like like something about just like I don't know, like seeing his daughter take the same, like being able to do the same things that he was able to do, and that were so informative for him. Like I understand that journey. That decision from Rory's standpoint, like of the things that you do for the people that you love. Yeah. But I cannot emphasize enough how much I hate the cold. I cannot, and I would not be able to do it. Like it's and really leaving and having no plans to come back. Like she doesn't intend for this to be like the last thing that she does. But her real goal is I'm just going to get to the North Pole, then from then on, I'll think of a new plan. But right now, that my plan is as far as going to the North Pole, and it's like, okay,
it's like fun. One-way ticket, please.
Right, right. We were talking about in the rehearsal process. Like, there's a point where she's in Norway, and she doesn't book a place to stay when she's going to Norway.
That would make me so nervous.
Yeah, exactly. She's sitting there. She's like, it's getting towards night now, so I guess I have to find a place to stay. It's like, girl, oh my God. Oh my gosh.
And you don't know what's going on in the town that you're in. So
right. It's like you don't speak. I mean, luckily she does say quite correctly that a lot of people do speak English in Norway, but it's like terrifying. Like you don't know where you're going to sleep. You don't know how. She doesn't really have a good understanding of currency and how money works in different countries. She does not anticipate this. Her budgeting, good, but not great.
Yeah. In general, you just say, hostel?
Yeah. And she didn't even say she didn't want to shell out like the whatever how many kroner to go to a hostel. She's just like, we'll figure it out when we're there. What?
We'll wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can only think the only time I've been out of the country is when I go to Edinburgh for the arts festival, and I just know that the town Edinburgh is so crowded that the thought of getting random
like
a place to stay last minute. I know people do it, but I am just not confident enough to do that. I'm planning so far in advance, and I'm still like iffy about it. I'm like, is this still good? I'm just checking.
You double check like all your email confirmations and everything to be like, we're good, right? We're all fine.
I think we're good. Did I book two? Because it's a whole day.
Right.
It's like 6 hours ahead of time. I got to make sure I got that.
Yeah, you have to you get someone you trust to be like, hey, can you look at this? Because I've been staring at this so long that I can't even read anymore. Please tell me that all these details look correct to you. Yeah, you try your hardest.
Oh, man.
And Rory's like, I can just do it by myself, and I'm not going to tell nobody.
So as I'm experiencing this piece and I'm sitting in the audience, I can't help but think about Netflix. Because Netflix has acquired a lot of YA novels and turned them into stories, and the coming of life concept just made me think about like some of the stuff that Rory goes through at her age almost seems a little bit like,
yeah, for sure.
I'm a little bit shocked, but then at the same time, I'm like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
We were kids.
Right.
And, there were definitely things we went through, too. It just wasn't really documented.
Exactly. And it's, like, hard to remember that, like, I think we always think that, like, kids are maturing so fast nowadays. And to some extent, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's a really confusing time to remember, like, how much... to know that, like, you're coming into your adulthood, you're coming into your own individuality, you're trying to figure out, like, your own independence, but at the same time, so much is limited, and, like, it's so frustrating to be in that time period, to be at that age.
Yeah.
And you know a lot of things, but you don't know how much goes into these things. You learn so much about, like, these new adult concepts, but you don't really know what they mean yet.
Yeah.
And so when we look back, you can just be like, oh, I was a fetus back then. I didn't know anything. I didn't know my ABCs when I was 15. But it's just like, it's hard to, it's just hard. It's just a hard age. It's so difficult. And she does go through quite a lot.
Yeah.
And you forget how much you go through at those ages. You forget.
I especially love how Rory takes us along for the ride with this story, and her explanations of the experiences are very much, I guess, accessible.
Yeah, for sure.
Where she's telling us about these things that someone in the audience is like, she did what?
Yes.
And she's just saying, it's kind of what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Or, you know, this was a little different, you know, talking about.
Yeah.
But that's how you would process it in your head. You wouldn't necessarily look at it as like, why? You know, I had this experience. And now let's, it's sort of like, what do they call it? The moment of after something happens, if you have an event and you unpack it later.
Catharsis?
This is a word. Postmortem.
Postmortem. Oh, yeah. Yes.
It took me a while to get there.
Listen,
Way to go, brain.
Yeah, you did it. You did it. I'm proud of you. I would not have been able to help you on that. I was like, where are we going? Yeah, like I think it's another thing I really enjoyed when I first read the play, and that helps me connect with Rory. And I think what makes everyone connect with Rory is that she's at this age where you're kind of just embarrassed about like every single choice that you make.
Yeah.
But I think she lives in that reality. She just lives in the fact that like pretty much everything I do right now, I can't help but overanalyze. But this is just how I go through it. You know, there's a frankness to her where like it's not as if she doesn't feel shame or anything like that, but she's not ashamed to share her thoughts, even the thoughts that she thinks are shameful. Like she's not afraid of having them. I don't know if that just sounds very convoluted, but I think that's part of the accessibility. It's just that she's like, this is what I'm going through, and she really doesn't have anything to compare it to. So on a lot of levels, she's kind of just like very matter of factly being like, so this is what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. How does this? Okay, well, I thought that, you know, it's like, she's reflecting, and it's how you would go through it in your brain. But yeah, she doesn't waste a lot of time beating herself up or even praising herself, really. She just kind of just trying to take it all in as it's happening. Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was if it was noted in the dialogue, but I was thinking, I was like, I wonder what her sign is.
Oh, I also wonder what her
because
sign is.
you think she has these sort of traits that you can find in some of those signs, and I wonder if that's what allowed her to sort of walk through this. And you say, that's totally classic.
Yeah, I think she definitely has like a Virgo moon somewhere. She's got a Virgo. I mean, that's cheating because I myself have a Virgo sun. Like my main sign is my like astrological sign is Virgo. But I think there's something to like the meticulousness and the detail and the standard that she holds herself to that like gives me some Virgo energy. But you know, she's also a wild card. She doesn't make a lot of plans. She's really emotionally driven, she's really emotionally driven, and I think she's a little bit more willing to make connections with people than like the stereotypical Virgo, at least if we're going by my own definition of being a Virgo. So I definitely think there's a Virgo somewhere in her chart.
Yeah.
As we say in my day.
So thinking about like, living this and becoming Rory in the rehearsal room, and then you move into the space where the world is visually imagined, and anyone who has been here knows exactly what I'm talking about. Christopher Haig did a wonderful job in here, and I said to him, I said there is a simplistic complexity to this piece. Absolutely. And he said it all comes to life with the lighting.
It 100% does. Amanda Jensen went off in her lighting design. They really worked in tandem together to create an incredible, and like you would really think like between those two things were set, but then even the sound design, like it really came together quite beautifully.
Sounds like an overall production.
Yeah. And you know, and I don't know if this is in your notes or whatever, but I will not leave out Ariel Wang, who knew that I had to wear 5 layers of clothing and did her best to make sure I wouldn't be profusely sweating on that stage.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Uniqlo?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like, can we just get the bulkiest looking clothing?
Yes.
The lightest fabric.
Yeah, which is great because actually when you're traveling, I was thinking about that too because so the thing that kind of demystifies this for us in this age is YouTube. There is someone on YouTube trying to demystify everything for us. Here's how to travel 48 hours in a foreign land. Like, here's what to pack. Here's what to wear.
Right.
Here's where to stay.
Right.
Here's what to eat. All of those things. So I was thinking about that, and I was like, if I didn't have all of that, I would have felt kind of anxious, and I would have overpacked, and I'd had way too much. So I was thinking, like, yeah, I know she's got a travel pack with her, and I'm like, how heavy is that? What's in there?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also, that's what's nice about, like, when you literally see her packing. And she's like, this is all I'm bringing, folks. And it's like, well, I feel like you probably could have packed a couple more granola bars. Or any snacks, actually. But it's fine.
I would have had, the bottom would have been lined with Cliff Bars.
Absolutely.
And
she's so afraid of getting scurvy, but she just gets the vitamin C pills. You know what I mean? Which I guess makes sense. But also...
Yeah. Those actually saved my life too. I remember, in Edinburgh, somebody wasn't feeling well, and I said, "I got you." Boom, boom.
You gotta prevent
Drop
scurvy.
it in.
You gotta.
There you go.
You gotta. It's the number one concern.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, the planning that it's really loose, but it's guided. You know what I mean?
And we're not meant to think too deeply about that part because it's the journey.
Right.
We want to know if she's going to get there.
Right. And I think at a certain point, like a lot of the first 30 minutes of the play, her planning and research is so meticulous that you can't, even if she doesn't go over like certain basic things, like we were talking about yesterday, like she says she packs socks and she packs sweaters, but we have no discussion of what undergarments that she's packed. But we're like, but she's researched all these people and looked at all these ways that you can get sick and whatever. You get the sense that she's thought it through so that we're not thinking to herself, okay, but what about this? Because it will take you out of it.
Get wet?
Right, exactly. You're not wondering, like, that, what about where are her gloves? It's like, what, like, it's not going to help if I'm wearing gloves on stage, so we're just going to believe that I have gloves, things like that.
I definitely, in this modern age of travel, I definitely feel good as long as I have, well, for me, I have an external battery for my technology and the ability to plug in somewhere.
Right.
Of course, you're traveling, so universal adapters you would need. But then if I have a credit card, then I feel like I'm okay.
Right.
Because I'm like ready for anything, and if I forgot something, I can go get it. I can pop in somewhere.
But on both of those fronts, like she says, she steals her mom's credit card. And she's like, well, my mom's going to track me.
Be canceled.
So we're really crossing our fingers over here.
It's only a matter of time.
Right. And like she's not really using her phone for the same concern.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it's like real touch and go there, Rory. I think there's a point where like we were talking. It's like I wonder what Rory's mom thinks. Like her daughter goes missing at the same time that her credit card goes missing. Does she connect the dots that like her daughter has run off with a credit card? Probably not, because she doesn't know where her daughter is. She wouldn't assume she'd go to the North Pole, and so if she's seeing charges from like Sweden, she probably just thinks separate. She's just having a really bad week in which her daughter's gone and. Now someone's stolen her credit card and gone off to Sweden. She thinks they're totally unrelated events. Yeah. But those are the things that I think about, that we were thinking about. It's like she should feel all right because these two things that we rely on so heavily. She's like, we're gonna use it on a really case by case basis here.
Well, there's something exciting about being sort of nomadic. It kind of allows you to be more open to the journey, the experience that is the journey in itself. So that the fact that she's going on it, and for the most part she is safely progressing.
Yes.
is, definitely makes me feel good about it.
Yeah.
Makes me feel a little bit more confident about it. I wonder if I could let
Do
go of a
this.
couple of things
Right.
and maybe travel light. Because I've definitely thought about, like, if the same stores or similar stores are in the town that I'm going to, I can probably
Just
do
get
it
these
without
things.
getting half of these things.
Right, exactly. Because it's always really hard to debate, like, how much is too much. And I think because she knows she's going to a really desolate place, and, like, having researched how many people got bogged down by the amount of things that they were carrying,
Yeah.
like, she really does want to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
But, it's hard. Yeah, like, you always try to, she's really trying to think, like, what are the things I need to survive? Apparently, no hard-boiled eggs. Like, no, she doesn't need snacks.
Yeah.
It's fine. But
I know. I would think about. That's why I said the Cliff Bars. I'm like
Yeah.
the protein, because that's kind of how I carry anyway.
right, exactly.
If that was a tough, like I got something in
And it's
there I
funny
can
what she
go.
thinks is important, because she talks about, like, there's a line where she's like, I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten since yesterday, but I need to save my cash, and I don't want to use my mom's credit card. And I'm like, girl, if you are not eating,
Yes.
how are you going to get there?
Yeah.
But, she has different priorities.
You figure it out.
She has to figure it out.
Are there moments in the play that are your favorite moments, or are there moments that are more of a challenge, or like what moments stand out for you the most?
One of my favorite moments is when she first sees her crush, her Norwegian crush. Because there's something so pure about her reaction that's always fun and never hard for me to, like, tap into, like, the kind of outbursts that she has and, like, the comparisons that she makes, and, like, trying to describe the beauty of this boy that she stumbled upon.
Yeah.
Like, I love doing it every night. It's always a joy for me to do. I love when she talks about when she has an opinion on the research that she's done. Like when she talks about, like, all the racist explorers, when she talks about all the ways you can die in the Arctic. Like, there's something about, like, the pride that she has and the purpose that she's kind of found in this journey that are always so much fun to share.
Yeah.
I do find that the play is written in a very stream of consciousness manner. Like, that's kind of the way it goes. So sometimes it's really difficult when I think about, like, when I'm thinking about the script, I see it in my head. So sometimes you see, like, a block of text, and it's so intimidating.
Yeah.
And that was the thing Claire and I really had to work on in rehearsal. It was just, like, to not be intimidated by the sheer density of the piece, and to just keep finding the individual thoughts and the little hills and mountains within the text. So those are some things that I found kind of difficult. I mean, some of them are just so wordy also, and it's a different cadence, and the words that we use from in a difference from an American dialect to a British dialect.
Yeah.
Like something as simple as I kept misreading the line, but the line is, but even that's not the start, is it? But I kept reading as it. But that's not even the start, is it? Because it's just like the way that I would read it as an American person. And those little things are going to get at you. And sometimes I'm just like, my stage manager can attest to this. Like, I'll just be reciting the lines in rehearsal, and I'll be like, I say it better. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep it going. But no, I have to say the lines as the playwright wanted them, because I guess the integrity of the story or whatever. But yeah, so those parts were difficult, and some of them were like just trying to get the sense of who she's talking about. If she's talking about two different explorers that nobody in this American audience will know, like, off the top of their head, and she's not paying attention to where her pronouns are. So we're talking about two different guys, but she's just saying he and him and that, and we're like, which one is it? That one's also kind of difficult.
Yeah. Are there elements of Rory's journey and this piece in general that you will take away and sort of incorporate into the fabric of you moving forward?
I think there's something about the radical honesty and the way her ability to share with people the intimate details of her life. Like, I like to think of myself as a really open and vulnerable person, but there's something about Rory doesn't put any disclaimers on herself. She doesn't apologize for her existence. And that's what I really appreciate about her and what I want to take with her.
Yeah.
To take with me when I exit the role. It makes me really proud to see a 15-year-old girl not know who she is, but really stand up in that.
Yeah.
And really stand up in that she's just figuring things out. And that's something I really want to take with me.
Yeah. I love how she seems to feel, or she seems to appear as if, like, not necessarily feeling foreign.
Yeah.
You know, like, I definitely felt like all eyes were watching me.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I'm like, there's so much going on. I am the
Yeah.
least important
Yeah.
of what's going on around me.
Yes.
But it took me a second, you know, when I left the country to just kind of just exist here.
Yeah.
You know? Everybody's got a backpack. So it's not
Right.
like, you know, you're specifically looking like a tourist more
Right.
than anybody else is looking like one, you know.
She's expecting anyone who's looking at her to be calling the police immediately. And she's
Yeah.
like, no, like, I'm just doing this. Like, this is a thing that I never imagined I'd be in the situation. But, like, something that seems so far away from me is right here in front of me and so doable.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really empowering about that. I think that's what makes her get so much bolder as the story goes on and how she gets more and more confidence to go through it. Because I think once you pass through that first hurdle, everything seems so much more possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're still listening and you're hanging on to every word here, but
Absolutely.
you've got to get over to the Lewis Bloover Theater to experience 100 Words for Snow. It is written by Taddy Hennessy.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. And it is presented by Inishnua Theater Company. It is on stage through the 23rd.
23rd of February.
And
Happy Black History Month.
when you get in there and you buy tickets, and tickets in plural, because theater is more fun with a +1.
Absolutely. Oh, it rhymes. That's how you know it's true.
It's a little tagline.
You know, it works.
But Satchel, thank you so much for taking the time to unpack this with me.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing us along on your journey and being
Yeah.
so engaging. Thank you to this entire production ensemble for,
Yeah.
you know, bringing this story to life in this space, which I think this space just lends so much to everything that happens in here. I've just
Yeah.
been so engaged by what goes on in the Bloover.
Yeah, you love a black box. You know,
Yeah.
you love their versatility, the kind of stories you can tell. I get really excited when I see different shows in here.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm like, how are they gonna make it new? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you get prepared for tonight's performance
Thank
and
you.
enjoy the rest of the run. And again, thank you so much for chatting with me. It was truly a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, pleasure's all mine.
Rep Radio continues to be inspired by our community and listeners like you. We are proud to be an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com. Ride with us. Emory is on the move.